Hi guys, I got a terrible case of run-on, also known as dieseling, and after a carburetor rebuild, the spec is turn it until it seats at 2 full revolutions and turn it back out too. So anyways, for this special tool, I mark it so I can count my revolutions, and this is what I've had to do to get my. It doesn't do this on 93 octane, but I don't want to pay for 93 octane. So I have a tank of 87 in here. And if you look now, I am 2 full revolutions counterclockwise past stock. So that would be 4 full revolutions after seating the mixture needle. And ironically, if you look at this service bulletin, which talks about Mercruiser service bulletin talks about dieseling or run-on, they tell you to turn the idle back. Of course, the first thing is put premium gas in there. Well, I don't want to pay $3 a gallon for premium when it's $2.25 for regular. But they say increase your idle mixture eighth of a turn richer. Well, that don't do squat. I've had to make 2 full turns to get it to where it won't run on, which is amazing, because when I was having my earlier problem with a bad rotor, the engine wouldn't run. When you turn the key off, it'll sit there and diesel and run without any electricity, which just is mind-boggling to me how one runs without electricity. But when I had a bad rotor, it wouldn't run with electricity. So anyways, there's also a really good story here. I don't know if you guys can read it, but the problem with these engines is it's California EPA. I'm not in California. And this one past stock tells you to, where's it at? It says 1/8 to 1/2 a turn out. Well, I've had to make 2 full revolutions, and I'm just now starting to get it tuned in to where it needs to be. So there it is, 1/4 to 1/2 a turn past stock. Well, I've had to go 2 full revolutions, so that would be 4 after the needle is seated. So got to play with it. Just get this tool if you got run on, and mark it and keep track of where you turn it. So that's where we're at now. It's starting to come back to life. Before you install your carburetor, you need to make sure that your transfer slots, which are these 2 little slots right here on either side, they look square. When you open your primaries, see those slots? You want to make sure they look square from this position. And that's actually what setting your idle screw here is actually called your primary screw. That sets the location of those throttle blades, which is how big your transfer slot is. And they should look square. If they're any bigger like this, it'll actually cause run on, a lean condition, and when you give it some gas to transfer from the idle to where the boosters kick in, the boosters are these devices right here. They're Venturi tubes, and it pulls out of the bowl, which is your bowl goes right in here. Your bowl's in there. Your float's right there. Your needle or actually the float's right here. The needle and seat's going into right here. And when you start your boat for the first time in the winter, you can actually pour gas into here to prime the main fuel chamber there. But these are your boosters, and they're Venturi tubes, and when there's vacuum going in the engine, that's what draws gas out of the bowl down there. You also have the accelerator pump, which is located right here, and gas will come squirting out. These little holes right there are going to squirt gas in. So when you give it gas, this lever turns right here, and there's a plunger that squirts gas into it as you accelerate. Now your idle mixture screw is this little needle right here, and you adjust it with this. You adjust it with a special tool from the back side here once you get it on there. Another thing to note: when you set your float height, you have to do it with the gasket on the top. And these carburetors are so simple because they're just 2 pieces. They're not 3 pieces. So you make sure that your transfer slots look square right there. And a lot of times people actually set their idle based upon the appearance there by turning this screw. If you turn this screw, the more further the clockwise you turn it, the more it's going to open them. And so you want to set them so they look square, and then so you have a low idle at like 500 RPMs, and then set your mixture to get your idle back up, and then do a final set there. But if you got run on, one of 3 things is messed up. Okay, either your primaries are too high, which is those slots, your idle mixture is way off, or your timing is way off. And run-on is also known as dieseling. When you shut the engine off, it's running almost like a diesel, because there's no spark going to the spark plugs, but yet the engine's still running just like a diesel runs without spark plugs. That's why it's called dieseling or run-on. It's amazing that it actually does that, but it's usually a lean condition that's causing it. And this particular carburetor is a California emissions carburetor, and it is notorious for run-on and dieseling, and that's why you got to get in there and tweak it. Their answer is to tell you to put 93 octane gas in there, which is just ridiculous. To have to pay that much more for gas just because you didn't turn your idle mixture a half to a full turn or increase your idle. But it's all about the emission standards and trying to keep these engines running as lean as they can possibly run to help with pollution. So your idle mixture screw is right there. And if you need to adjust your accelerator pump, every one I've always seen is in the middle, but you can move this rod to there or move it to there, whether you want. If you want more stroke to your more gas, you'd put it here, and if you want less, you put it here. And there's just a little clip that you pop off right there, and you can adjust it right there. There is no choke on these TKSs. You'll notice there's no choke. It's all being done with this. It's just like a throttle position sensor. Works the same way, but it screws a rod that you could see it in there. But it opens how much air is going into the carburetor. Which is going to come in through right there. And you'll hear it when it's engaged. It'll go shh, and then when it kicks off, it'll be quiet. The only way the book says to test if it's working or not is to put your hand on the end of this element, and it should be hot. If you put your hand here and this isn't hot, then you got a bad unit right there. So carburetors are pretty simple. I think they're really cool that it's all mechanical and uses vacuum and pressure to work. And see, you don't want it set like that. You want it set so it's a square there. And you will see the gasket is going to fit here, but there's a passage either side going through there with the idle mixture screw. So if you adjust this stuff, just take really good notes on where things were before you mess with them so you can put them back. Because if you go and adjust this and adjust this and adjust your timing all at the same time, you're going to have a heck of a time getting everything back together. And a lot of carburetor people will tell you that you should be setting your idle right here. Not by doing, the book and manual and everything says, see when it touches, and I think 1.5 or 2 revolutions. But the best way is actually look in there, and that should look like a square, not a slot. See, that looks like a slot, and that's going to be too lean. So get your base there by those squares, then mount it and set your mixture, and then go back and tweak your curb idle, whatever you want to call it. But your vacuum signal goes through here, what's called the vacuum signal, and your run-on is from the transfer slot is too far open, is what causes run-on. If you have a lean stumble, when you give it some gas and it sort of stumbles or bogs, that's a lean bog, and you need to richen it up quite a bit. That's about it.